Good evening and welcome to Around the Lake, a news program brought to you by the Ithaca Times and the Finger Lakes community newspapers and recorded here in the Pegasus studios at Times Warner Cable. Today we're going to talk about a business incubator out in Danby that is apparently a little hung up. Keri,
Yeah.
You covered this, and you talked to the owner first, and then you talked to neighbors, and there was, one hand not knowing what the other was doing.
Yeah, I got different stories as to how things are going.
So what did David Hall is the owner?
Yes, David Hall, who owns National Book Auctions, which is on 96B.
Yeah.
He's owned since 2011 this property on Gunderman Road, which is like once you get to the middle of Danby, you turn right.
It's the old Angel Hart building.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so it's a barn that was built in the 1800s or something, and
Looks like it.
Yeah, well, and they kept the original barn and built another barn around it. So apparently on the top floor there, you can actually crawl out onto the roof and be in between the barns.
You see, I would not enjoy that.
Okay. It's really cool. A reporting job.
Yes.
Okay,
Well, I didn't actually crawl around. I should have
That's why
asked
it's a business incubator.
I should have asked him if I could crawl around in between the roofs, but I didn't.
He probably would let you. Knowing him, he's easygoing.
So what does he want to do with
So he
the
wants to
barn?
do a business incubator there. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's a mile and a half from the main road, so it's off the beaten path at any rate. And it's a very rural residential area. And so he wants to have, originally he was going to have some food-related businesses there, but it ended up taking too long to get approvals, so they've backed out and found leases elsewhere, or at least some of them have. And he has an autism center that he's starting up right now that as of now is just going into people's homes, but he wanted them to actually have a center to operate from. So that would be there. He was also talking about moving his book auction business there, because where it is right now is 4,000 square feet, and this would be 21,000 total.
So what makes it an incubator and not just a place for businesses?
Well, it's supposed to be for young businesses. That's what incubator is, right?
Little
Well,
teeny
I mean,
business?
does it?
Yeah, tiny
This
baby
high?
businesses
Well,
before they've gotten very big.
Well, an incubator is kind of on the co-working model, where you share resources.
Yeah.
You have your own laptop, but you share a meeting room.
And a coffee
Right.
machine.
Yeah, coffee and just you share your internet costs. You have one pipe coming into the building and then it splits. And so it's cheaper. It's a way for
are
things
there
to get going.
grant opportunities attached to
Good question. I don't know.
calling
Probably.
it an incubator because you're starting a new business? I
don't
mean,
know.
That didn't come up.
okay.
I mean, as of now, he's sort of probably not at that point yet because it's a zoning issue right now.
Okay.
It's a planned development zone. Originally, when Angel Hart, which was a clothing, company, if anyone
Manufacturer, right.
doesn't know, that was a clothing company. When they started, they didn't really, from what I've heard from background from community members, is that they sort of didn't really have it properly zoned. So after they were already starting this business, then afterwards the town board was like, hey, we should zone this. So they made a planned development zone to accommodate an existing business.
Okay.
But that PDZ only was for clothing related stuff. So now David Hall wants to have a business incubator in the same location, but the
neighbors
PDZ
are
only
complaining.
allows clothing.
Right,
So he needs to
okay.
get it changed, and the neighbors are expressing concerns. Although if you ask 10 different people about, how much controversy this is, or if it's even controversial at all, you'll get different answers. It's
Well,
controversial whether it's even
The
controversial.
concerns actually were
the
rather
water.
concrete for a reason, yeah.
Yes.
For a change.
There's not a whole lot of water up there,
Yeah.
and I know that, I believe when the Waldorf School was thinking of moving out there, the neighbor's concern was that if you're drawing too much water from that aquifer, which is up on the top of the hill, after all, then their wells go dry.
Right, and that happened apparently to one of the neighbors because of
while
Angel
Angel Hart
yeah.
was there.
Well, Flax, I mean, they renamed themselves Flax at some point,
All right,
so
well,
Flax
okay.
now, but
Or
whatever.
they only
Old
work
time.
So
inside.
Yeah, I used to live on Gunderman Road, so.
What if you say you could really wear anything. You could wear those trees as a hat. So could you get around zoning like that?
No.
Oh, okay, just checking.
Yeah, zoning's dumb, but it's not that dumb.
Yeah, so they've also had, so they've had a lot of issues with how to word this PDZ specifically, because as of now, the proposal was too broad. If
Yeah.
you allow for storage, like he wants to store his books
Yeah.
there, then it could potentially be like a Walmart warehouse. So, and saying it could be used for food, food manufacturing could mean, that they would have a slaughterhouse there. So they've had some discussions about how to make it more precise in the wording.
Right.
And that's sort of where it is right now. David Hall needs to come up with a site plan and some more precision in the wording and get together with the planner and then come
Is
back
there a
to.
timetable on that?
He said he wants to come back to the town board with something this month.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, there wasn't a deadline, but
Yeah.
that, he wants to get this moving along. It's a neat property. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
looked around, it was a cool place.
Yeah, it's got a great view.
Yes, it does.
It's
It's an
Danby, yeah.
awesome view of the Newfield Valley below.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's Newfield below.
Oh, I was only looking out towards the Danby side. I didn't go outside on the other side of the building.
That's sort of steep drop off into Newfield. I think that there's like a chunk of Newfield and then there's West Danby.
Well, it
Anyway.
sounds like we'll come back to this one because he'll keep forging ahead.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that people are complaining about water, which is like a real thing, instead of, I don't know, crime, which I wouldn't associate with a business incubator, so they didn't either. But traffic or something like that, it's just,
Right.
this
Oh.
is real. I mean, if you run out of water, you're not in good shape.
Right.
So that's nice that they have something concrete to argue about.
Yeah.
And that they can maybe figure it out.
You can have,
Somebody could
you
offer
have
to
your
drill a
books
deeper
there,
well.
but you can't have a coffee machine,
Yeah, right.
right?
Business
You
incubator.
must have a water
They drink a
cooler.
lot of coffee.
Right, okay.
And so we'll get back to that. Thanks, Keri.
Josh.
The other story is about this African-American fraternity that apparently started here in Ithaca, downtown, rather than.
Apparently, I wasn't around, nor invited, but
You look old. but-
First one in the
Okay.
United States?
yeah, Alpha Phi Alpha, and started at Cornell, and so the city designated this building, this house that's been sitting empty for maybe like 15 years. No one knows exactly for sure, and the owner doesn't really have a phone number I can find. But
Clever owner.
Yeah, but the house has been condemned, but the city made this a historic designation.
It actually looks better than some condemned houses. I have to
Yeah,
say.
if
It's
you
quite
go and
square.
poke around on the outside, yeah, there's some peeling on the porch and such. But right across from the Alex Haley Pool up the block on North Albany from the GIAC.
Okay, I know that building, yeah.
And so the idea is the fraternity, national fraternity, has been pushing to kind of preserve this property and also build a monument to where the fraternity technically became a fraternity. This house is where C.C. Poindexter said, hey, friends, let's have a literary social studies club, because they didn't have Facebook and, or like we're expected to be engineers. The liberal arts were strong, as you can see from my pronunciations.
Yeah.
And
Liberal arts graduate folks.
yeah, pretty much. Why do you think I'm here? So the building now has city designation, which gives it access to state and federal tax credit, like income tax credits. The owner, if he makes improvements, can get like 20% from state and federal income. And the city also has a property tax abatement program for improving like this. And the fraternity itself, APA, the national organization, would be more than happy to buy it if he wanted to sell.
And the interesting thing is it doesn't have a driveway, which for many years would have been some sort of deficit. But with the way things are going now, it's not. Like a lot of millennials don't even want to own a car. And people seem like they are fine with not having one, and so they could own this house and then they could live in it like 1905.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if the owner decides to just spruce it up and try and sell it as somewhere to actually live, and it just keeps that historic
It's a
designation.
nice house. I like it.
Or if, actually just decides to to get out, or maybe take the money, fix it up, and then
Sell.
get out. Yeah, sell to an owner that has foundational money. So, see.
Okay, so let's see, what are we going to, oh, me.
We're going to you.
Yeah.
Green building or not?
Well, yeah, I didn't go much into the building part of it, but the story is called Green Growth, and the subtitle is Balancing Economic and Ecological Impacts. And the idea is that local municipalities have to decide how to have economic growth so they can have a tax base while still preserving the local environment. And then the green building practices are, kind of looking more global, saving energy and that sort of thing going forward. But I concentrated on two examples where this sort of came to the fore, and then talked to a lot of professionals about this in general terms and also in specifics. And the cover is actually a woman called Deborah Geyer, I think her name is, and she's one of the West Hill neighbors who had opposed a project of cluster housing. I think it was 58 units, and they wanted to build this on a 25-acre plot that's essentially between the old public health building on Warren Dates. Is it Warren Dates Drive and
No.
the
Harris
state-
Dates.
Harris Dates.
Harris B.
Dates.
Dates. He has a middle initial too.
And
Harris B. Dates.
they-
Yeah. He be
Yeah,
dating.
I think he ate a lot of dates. The State Highway and Indian Creek Road, and so it's grown up. It looks like it was abandoned about 30 years ago. I've walked through it. There are a lot of wetlands on it, and if you look at the town comprehensive plan, the east side, the east half of this lot is actually designated as having hydric soils, and I'm sure looked at the county soil maps. But what wasn't realized until NRP did a survey of the property was that the western half of it also is wet. And so they decided that economically it didn't make sense for them. They couldn't build enough units on this property in order to make any money doing it. It was supposed to be cluster housing and affordable housing and a sort of rent-to-own kind of situation, so that people who ordinarily couldn't afford to buy a house could, through essentially an installment plan, do so. And it was on mass transit. There's a couple of bus lines that go up there. It's near sources of employment, namely the hospital, the Museum of the Earth, the massage school, and the doctor's offices. And so this is designated by the county as a node, which means that it's supposed to grow into something like a village. Most of the other designated nodes in the county are actual historical villages that they want to preserve and keep as dense settlements, dense multi-use settlements. So they're not just residential clusters. They're meant to be work, live, and shop kinds of places. And a lot of the protest against this was that the people who live there now apparently feel that they live in the country. And so they think of this as a sprawl coming to them. And in an earlier article, I stated essentially, well, an earlier editorial, I stated that they are sprawl. And that this is actually the antidote to sprawl, which is to have, people living where they perhaps work and having small retail, so you don't have to go down to Wegmans to get a quart of milk all the time. You do have to leave this place. It's not like some island. But this whole deal fell apart because of the wetlands. That's what it really came down
Can
to.
you just build like a tower on top of Wegmans? Like
Oh, God,
500
yes.
With like a
stories?
searchlight?
Yeah, it would just like have all the housing, just like
Like
5,000
on
units,
top
fix
of
all
the-
the demand, and
I
then no one
hate
would ever have to
bothering
drive to
do
Wegmans.
groceries,
Yeah, they just
and it'd
take
be
an
great if I
elevator
was
down.
already there.
Shop and go back up.
Just like a dumb waiter.
Yeah,
Well,
they
you
could all
know,
work on computers at home.
The shipping containers from the trains.
people who.
Oh, yeah!
Right?
Yeah,
Our
yeah.
councilman from Tacoma
Yeah, right,
Tacoma
Tacoma
Park.
Park, yeah. When we were in DC, we had a discussion with one
I've heard
of
of
the
this.
councilmen.
Mark- doing it
Mark
there?
Eldridge. Well, no, he would like to, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are hot on the sustainability blogs.
Right,
There's
just
the
like-
micro house thing and now like shipping container
Shipping containers, you
repurposing
could
is-
just, and you could, his idea was you could stack the shipping containers, excuse me while I just wander off into the weeds.
No,
You
no,
could
this
stack
is actually germane.
shipping containers on top of your parking garages, which are unused spaces, and that way you could get homeless people like right next to services. So they don't have to trek in and out of town, they can just, be right there where the parking garage is.
It's the
and
same
come
thinking that you
downstairs.
have here. Because
Yeah.
these, number one, they're townhouses, they're not full-size houses.
Right,
They're 2 stories, and, whereas if you go down Indian Creek Road, most of them are ranches. And
Right.
so it's just, these go up, and they're next to each other, and they're in clusters, and so this is a 9-acre development on a 25-acre parcel. They were going
Right.
to leave most of it green. And so, and the whole idea was to get people to just live together, instead of just sprawling out all over the landscape.
like Eco-Village, but not.
Well, it's more like with Susan, yeah, Eco-Village is interesting. I mean, I don't understand why they're out there, but we can't really get into that. But Susan Cosentini, on the other hand, takes that sort of approach, and she's put it on North Aurora Street, of packing people in and building with green materials and salvage materials and having everybody live in close proximity and share space and everything. So, there are kernels of this all over the place around here. It's a progressive idea, but it's being pretty much fought by people who like sprawl and are just used to it. So this green growth is really trying to get people to see that economic development can go forward most profitably if we stop wanting to have our own 2-car garage, our own 3-acre lot where we can watch the deer, and that we have to drive everywhere for everything.
So all of these planning initiatives are the aim is really to cut down on car usage.
Right.
Right.
That's part of it, yeah. Because that is a huge use of fossil fuels, and so a huge source of pollution, and also just a lot of infrastructure. Costs a lot of money. We don't do a really
Right.
good job of maintaining the roads around here, so people should really understand.
all the hills, like zip lines. I think
Oh,
zip lines,
yes. That'd be so awesome.
That has been proposed.
it's not in the comprehensive plan.
No.
Makes me
Down
sad.
Buffalo
Yeah.
Street, that'd be so cool.
Yeah.
Oh.
People have pronounced
yeah.
funiculares too. The
I don't-
chain.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
You get on
Right.
the chain, you just go up like you're in Capri.
But a zip line would be way better.
That's good for coming
Yeah,
down.
with like a ski lift.
You
on
go
the
up
way
on the funiculare, you come down on the
Yeah.
zip line. So, and that would save energy,
What does Savante think of this?
I don't know, you should
I mean,
text
he's
him.
commuting from College Town, so,
I
right?
know.
I don't think he's in lower college now.
Right, right.
Yeah.
It's all on a hill. He could still zip line in.
Yep.
You could
There's,
zip line in.
there's a difference between getting to the chapter house and Rudolph's. That matters.
Well, anyway,
Depends on your destination.
this is kind of a sprawling article, so I don't think I'll go into it any further here, but the other project that I looked at was Jason Fain's ill-fated East Clinton Street project, which was shot down because it didn't use green materials in its construction, and it didn't try to use alternative energy or anything like that. So the ostensible reason it was turned down for tax abatements was the
Lack of green materials.
yeah, just environmental reasons. So that was economic development coming up, right up against environmental concerns, and environmental concerns won in that case. So where are we? Oh, so now we're hip
Now we're hip
We can
deep.
talk shit.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's
we
right.
can. Actually, we need to.
Yep, Dryden.
Out in Dryden, out in Freeville, actually.
Yeah, it's pretty.
So we had a bunch of emails, as I know the Ithaca Voice and the Ithaca Journal have too, about a project that Beck Farms is going to, where they're installing a 7 million gallon manure lagoon, and they're putting a pipe underground to scoot the manure
Scoot.
to the manure lagoon. And the neighbors, some of the neighbors are complaining. Tim and Heather Gow went to the Dryden Town Board, and their objection, stated at the meeting, is that that it goes under wetlands, that it hasn't been looked into thoroughly by the DEC, and that it wasn't properly vetted in public hearing. However, Craig Scott, who is the chairman of the Conservation Board in Dryden, said he worked really closely with Beck Farms, and that the project is green. We talked to a person working at the farm, I'll say a spokesperson, who explained that by doing this, they're going to save themselves 900 truck trips a year.
There you go.
So that's greener. They're going to be saving wear and tear on the roads, which were, as you said, not in the greatest shape.
That was another story in Dryden.
That was another story in Dryden, that they need to spend more on their roads. And they would be saving about 5,000 gallons of diesel fuel moving the manure. This pipeline, which he showed us, we got a picture on the website.
Yeah, the walls were like that thick.
Yeah, it was quite thick. It's not a huge pipeline, so it doesn't
No,
really,
not that big.
as he said, it's even going under the road. They don't have to tear up the road.
Yeah, they actually use an auger to just
Right.
push it under.
Yeah.
Or pull it.
Pull it under. And that rather than what they do on some farms still around here, storing the slurry and then spraying it on the fields, at the proper moment, hopefully when it's cold, which keeps the aroma down.
But not when it's frozen, because then it
Because
doesn't run off.
Because then it's... So what this pipeline is going to do is it's basically going to inject it under the surface of the soil. So it should actually not be as smelly as it ordinarily is. And so the folks at Beck's Farm feel like they're really trying hard to make this a green project, and they are being responsible. The Gows beg to differ and would like to stop the project.
Yeah, man, there's been a lot of press about this, including in the Dryden Courier.
Yep, look at the front page of the Dryden Courier.
Yeah.
Mike Nacella goes into it thoroughly. You look like you're bursting with quips.
I'm
It was
just
great
enjoying
writing
myself.
headlines for
Yeah.
this.
No, I had fun last night talking about the Greenways project. Fred Wilcox of the town of Ithaca Planning Board had this whole reminiscence about growing up on Slaterville Road, where there is now the Eastwood Commons, and there will soon be townhomes for sale to Cornell employees mostly. And he was
Right.
talking about there's this cesspool up top where the pig farm, that was where the pig farm debris went.
Right.
So that was what that area formerly was.
That really green patch up there at the top
Yeah,
of the hill?
probably. Yeah. So, just a lot of sense in the air.
Could be worse. Could be a pig farm.
Yeah.
There's always that.
Always be a
There's
pig
nothing
farm.
to really stop the Becks from putting in pigs if they want to. So,
Well, maybe I should repeat the famous Trumansburg pig story.
oh yeah, that was the
where-
Trumansburg
yeah.
pig story.
Several years ago, a Mr. Auble wanted to build a supermarket just outside the village on a vacant lot. But it was farmland. He owned it, and he didn't want to farm it anymore. He wanted to put in a supermarket. And the town and the village both were against it. And they said, you can't do that. It's zoned agricultural, and so it has to have an agricultural use. And he said, fine, I'll put in a pig farm.
Put in a pig farm.
And so what he did is he got some bulldozers out there and he dug a couple of trenches And he drove 2 school buses
Yeah, I
into the
remember the
trenches.
school buses, yeah.
And then he just filled it in, and so the pigs could just walk in and out of the windows of the school buses.
Right,
And they ate a lot, and it came out the other end of them, and it smelled like a pig farm. And he made his point. Because people did not like that particular agricultural use there.
so then what happened with it?
Nothing ever
Nothing.
happened, actually.
Didn't
It's
it-
still vacant. The school buses are gone now. But it was, they just didn't want him to build a supermarket.
It's on
And they-
96 toward Interlake, and as you're going out.
Correct,
Yeah,
up near the
yeah,
county line,
yep,
yeah.
Yep.
And so that land has since been annexed to the village, so it's now the village's problem rather than the town's. But it was one of those situations where people used, in this case, agricultural issues just as sort of a prop to say, well, we don't want you to do this because we really we like agriculture.
Right,
And then he put agriculture in and nobody liked it.
like.
No, not that kind of agriculture.
Yeah, okay.
So that was kind of rough. And that happens a lot with these environmental issues too. Off the record, a lot of people were telling town officials that they opposed the West Hill development, not because of environmental issues, because a kind of person that they didn't really want in their neighborhood was probably going to live there because it's affordable housing. They would
That's
never
what
go
I
on
always
record.
suspected as I was
Yeah.
following this through the